I'm back. Welcome to the Season 2 premiere of the RedZone Podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Pointinger, and boy, has it been a while since we've made one of these. Not since February when we did our free agency recap for every team. And then before that, it was the season or the Grey Cup recap in November. So it has been a long time, but we are back with a different season, same schedule. I mean, it's always going to be on Wednesdays unless I say otherwise. Always on Wednesday, but now we've hit season 2 and we're talking about the 2024 Calgary Stampeders and also recapping games, other CFL games or news throughout the league. But let's get right into it with our first episode. And on today's episode, we are talking about Jake Maier versus Matthew Shiltz as seen in the thumbnail. Probably you saw it. Yes, we are talking about this quarterback competition because I thought it was an intriguing storyline here in training camp before the start of the season. Who's going to get the start? I think it's going to be Jake Maier, but you never really know. I mean, they paid Matthew Shiltz pretty good dollar amount. I think over $100,000. So he's getting paid pretty decently to be a backup, and who knows, he may get the start because of this schedule, but we'll get to the schedule a bit later. Let's start with Jake Maier, though. It wasn't a great 2023, and 2023 didn't suggest that he should be the hands down starter. Let's go through some of the numbers, just some. 62.8 completion percentage, 19 touchdown passes, and 15 interceptions. Now, I went through this in our Stampeders season in review, but I kind of want to touch back on some of that stuff because it's been a while and it's pretty, it goes well with what we're talking about today. Now, I'll add some context because I think the stats, you can only get so far. It doesn't really tell the full story. Yes, there was a decent amount of injuries on that offense, especially on the receiving core. You had, big names like Malik Henry and Jalen Philpott who were out for big chunks of the year. Running back Kadeem Carey. And why the running back isn't so important, injury-wise, even though Kadeem was really good in 2022, is because you had very good production from your number 2 and your number 3 running back in Dedrick Mills and Peyton Logan, especially Dedrick Mills, who came in replacement for Kadeem Carey and did a really good job. He deserved that contract extension this past offseason, and now he'll be the full-time starter in 2024. But you had some depth there, and, we weren't really worried about that. But the Malik Henry and Jalen Philpott injuries, and even to the rookies like Cole Tucker and Clark Barnes, they kind of had nagging injuries throughout the year, so it wasn't really a healthy receiving core for pretty much the entire season. One player or the other was going down with an injury, it felt like. But that really can't be an excuse. I mean, there were drops. We all know that near the end of the year. Probably the rookies more than anybody, but that can't really be an excuse because the Stampeders were 3-8, and I said this on the season in review, 3-8 in one-score games in the last 3 minutes. That's 11 out of 18 games that we were right in it in the last 3 minutes. Now, why we didn't win a lot of those games could be due to lack of execution or not finishing drives, which happened a lot this year, getting to about the red zone area and then failing to, produce touchdowns, and the other team going down the field and getting a touchdown themselves. It just, you can't trade 7 for 3s. It's just not a good recipe. And that could be a reason why you had a 6-12 record. The Stamps were probably better than what their final record actually suggested, but at the end of the day, 12 losses is still 12 losses. And third in the West, I mean, that was kind of a gift because Saskatchewan lost almost every single game. After the Labor Day Classic, they just imploded and kind of just said, "Here you go, Calgary. Take this gift of another playoff berth, 18th straight year." Calgary didn't really do much with that playoff berth as they lost to BC in BC in the West semifinals. And they were obviously the better team. I think they finished with like 12 or 13 wins. Vernon Adams was doing his thing, torching the Stampeders defense. But look, it's a new year, and you got to look to 2024. And can Jake Maier be better? And he's going to have to be better, or else maybe Matthew Schultz comes in and gets some playing time. And I think he may this year because of this schedule, and especially the start of the schedule. Now, before I get to the schedule, I don't want to blame this all on Jake Maier or put this all on his shoulders. He's done a lot of things like not so well, and he'll have to improve on a lot of stuff, but there's so much that goes into it. I mean, all three phases, you could offense, defense, special teams, there could be a lot to blame for how the 2023 season went. Even play calling by Dave Dickinson, that at sometimes was a bit weird, not going to the run or going away from it, especially early on, and passing way too much. I mean, way, way too much. I had some stats in that season in review that were just crazy. I mean, he led the league in passing attempts and completions, but yet he wasn't that, efficient at only 62.8%. So just way too many passes and not enough runs, which we were, a running team in 2022. So, I mean, there's a lot of blame that can be, passed, and the defense, the coaches, everyone. So it's not just Jake Maier, but it's just such an important year for him to bounce back. And it's more of like a prove it year because they did a reconstruction of his contract after this or 2023, and he made less money because I think it was more like, hey, prove it, and we'll see next off season if we can go with you as our long-term guy. But the signing Matthew Schultz was really just interesting, and these first 6 games of the regular season are brutal for the Calgary Stampeders. You got Hamilton in Calgary, Bo Levi's return to Calgary, at BC, then you got a week 3 bye. After the bye, oh boy, it does not get any easier, than those first 2 games. Versus Winnipeg, at Montreal, at Winnipeg, versus BC. Yes, 2 games against BC, 2 games against Winnipeg in the first 6. And it's not just like the first 6 games and they're more crucial than last year or whatever. It's because the West got so much better. You start with the running back position. A.J. Ouellette went from the Argos. He went to Saskatchewan, so he went east-west. You had William Stanback go from the Alouettes to the BC Lions. You had, Curly Gittens Jr. go from the Argos to the Elks. I'm trying to remember all this. You had Winnipeg re-signing all their guys, plus adding Chris Strevler, so they have some insurance if Zach Collaros, hopefully not, but if he goes down with an injury, you got some insurance there. Am I forgetting anybody? I'm trying to think. Saskatchewan added some pieces on that defense and Jameer Thurman. So that Western division is just going to be so tough, and it's going to be harder to try to rebound and bounce back from a bad start or a bad stretch early in the year. But you can let me know your thoughts, as always, down in the comment section. Do you think that Jake Maier will be the starter? Do you think Matthew Schultz may get a chance early in the year because the Calgary Stampeders are struggling? Or do you think Maier will have a bounce back season and lead the Calgary Stampeders to a really good start and a really good year? I hope it's the latter, but we're going to have to wait and see. Next week, we will be doing our predictions, our 2024 CFL predictions. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be getting a lot of stuff wrong. But hey, that's a great thing about predictions. You can come back and see what you got wrong. And it's kind of fun. So we're going to be doing that next week. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will see you in 7 days. Season 2, let's go. Peace.